Welcome in the Sunday edition, the pre-Oscars edition, the March Madness edition of the NBA Deeper Dive. And if you want even more than us breaking down the slate, getting a little deep here as we do before lock, coming your way live before lock an hour, then wait no further as Mr. Rinpack is in the house 2 days in a row. You get this man in after smashing a slate on DK Friday night. So it's a hell of a weekend for us that we get to chill with him. And it started off great for you Friday night. And before you preemptively say anything, yes, I made a mistake following Dan in the chat last night, that 3.5 3-point prop smash. But you know what, my friend? It's always great to see you. And I know I have tons of wisdom to look forward from you now.
Oh, excited to go back to back. This is fun. We haven't done this yet this season. So glad to be on for a little earlier edition of the Deeper Dive. But 6-game slate should be a ton of fun to break down, some big pending news to look at. And I think this should be a fun one to break down.
How did it go last night for you, just overall?
It could have been a little better. There was a little bit of a wonky situation in OKC where they started Theo Maledon, and I liked him a lot. And I just couldn't jam him in enough in lineups where it would work out. And then me just preferring Giannis to Jokic didn't pan out as well. But it was just close, but not good enough. You got to be almost close to perfect nowadays. So it is what it is.
All right. So what are you thinking tonight? Now we have a couple of pay up options. Again, we continue to look at injuries, and we'll keep that as far as the back of what we're doing here as well, just maneuvering through this slate. So if it's a pay up option, maybe that you really like, and we'll get through each and every game, granted, but just looking at an individual, or maybe it's injury that's kind of dictating your strategy tonight overall.
Yeah, it's I'm waiting on the New Orleans situation. And obviously LeBron James, but CJ McCollum and Valanciunas, both questionable. Shout out to Ryan Nelson. He got that extra 400 in the bag on the under prop. It was a sweat. He got it. Yeah. We already got news that Brandon Ingram is going to be probable. So this New Orleans team's on the fringe of falling out of the play-in game. So my indication is like, if you're going to win, you want to get this win against the Lakers. They're close in the standings. So I'm thinking they'll play, but I've been wrong in the past. But that's pretty big news in New Orleans. What's going to happen with Brandon Ingram? He's going to play if there's a minutes limit there. And if there's Valanciunas and McCollum are going to play. But the best narrative of the night is Kyrie Irving back at the Barclays, making that home season debut. He might be on a 70-piece alert all night.
I love it. I love it. Killed me on the 3-point prop, but I'm right back on there because you know me. Anytime there's a good narrative, just sign me up. I'll sit there and bring my knife and fork with it. All right, man. So let's bounce around here. And again, if you're chilling with us, we remind you, hit that thumbs up button, please, and make sure you're subscribed across the board. Yahoo has a great offer for you, so just take advantage of it. That opportunity is below. If you click the link, you sign up, your first deposit, and then play. We're going to give you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, and you'll see right away, like day one, how you can put that into use and take advantage of all the tools and metrics that Alex and company here have for you. All right, we're in pack. Let's get into it, man. Golden State, speaking of injuries, nothing new here on the Curry front. So we look at the Warriors at the very least, first and foremost, and then we'll slide on over to Washington, who's also without a big one in Kuzma. And let's just start with the Warriors and the game itself and maybe the appeal. Jordan Poole is definitely going to pop up more often than not as far as guys on at least the Warriors from an ownership standpoint, at least on DK. So do you find yourself kind of maybe equal, a little heavier to that 17% field?
Yeah, that's a pretty significant ownership to be kind of locking yourself in the first game. I'm okay going in a little bit under. I was on this Clay over Jordan Poole side of things ever since Steph Curry got hurt, and it finally worked out on Friday as Clay outscored Jordan Poole. But at these price tags on DraftKings, yeah, I mean, you're going to like those $500 savings. Wiggins has been on and off, mainly off of late without Steph Curry in the picture. But Jordan Poole, $7,700 DraftKings, $7,700 on FanDuel looks even better. Comes in at a very appreciative $26 on our sponsor, Yahoo. Yeah. You got to like that Yahoo price tag quite a bit. And looking at, I guess, his new backcourt mate, Klay Thompson, I have some interest in him just because Klay can have those eruption games. And there's nothing better than just watching Klay just flashing those threes and you have him in your lineups. Yes, granted, he needs to get there very scoring dependent wise, but we've seen him rack up some peripherals here and there over the past few games. So I don't mind going to Clay. $7,500 on FanDuel looks great. $8,200 on DK, going to be low on 3-point bonus there. I think you can get there in significant fashion on Yahoo as well. I do have it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No.
I think you should just have interest on this Golden State team a little bit. Even Draymond Green.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Played 28 minutes, didn't close very disappointing the other night. I like going right back to him. $4,900 on FanDuel. He can get there on stocks alone, like steals and blocks alone. He can really make some damage there. So I know he burned a lot of people last time out. I like going right back to him. Draymond 5,800. He can find multiple ways to pay that off.
20 on Yahoo seems like an even better price there. More maneuverable.
Yeah, I agree. Another thing to keep in mind, Steve Kerr made a coaching note earlier on Friday saying he's going to experiment with new lineups. We did see Kevon Looney go to the bench. We saw Jonathan Kuminga get the start. Kuminga's going to start. If Kuminga starts again, you can definitely go to him at those price tags, $4K on DK, a little bit more, $4,100, and nice price tag on Yahoo, $11. I'm fine falling on Kuminga. Keep in mind, it's very volatile. Results could happen. It wouldn't shock me if he goes back to Looney, or we might even see a different starting lineup. Maybe we can even see a Gary Payton get in there. They go a little bit smaller. So just keep an eye on that starting lineup. Steve Kerr was pretty clear that he's going to experiment with different starting lineups heading forward.
All right, here's the big question before we move to Washington, Rinpack, is how under the 15%, 15.2% to be exact of the field are you at the $23? And I'll be nice to Wiggins here and give him the Yahoo price, at least the $23 for Wiggins.
So Wiggins is one of those guys without Steph Curry I've been above the field on, and I'm going to go to him again. Wiggins has been disappointing. I know his minutes were cut short there towards the end against Atlanta, but I don't mind falling on Wiggins just because the usage hasn't spread around, and Wiggins had a good game against Miami in terms of just real life basketball perspective, but he has the upside to get you 25 plus raw points, and he was picking up peripheral rate, like his steals and block rate were much higher earlier in the season. They've tailed off a little bit, and it's a Washington matchup where the matchup can go up and down for this Warriors team. So I don't mind going to Wiggins. It's not going to take much to get above the field, and Wiggins on Yahoo seems a fine spend down pivot off of Klay Thompson. I know different position, but when you're allocating a little bit of salary to this team, I don't mind going to Andrew Wiggins. I just like this Golden State team a little bit more than the public does at this moment, but that's been the case for me over the past week without Steph Curry.
All right, without Curry, now we go to Washington without Kuzma here, and we can look at Porzingis really, and then a couple of other options if you are sneaking in some cheaper plays. I guess KCP would be one of them. There are a couple actually you could look at here. So according to the field, at the very least, it looks like it's going to be more of a cheaper opportunity or two here to take advantage of, and maybe less than spending up $8,500 on DK for a guy like Porzingis.
Yeah, Porzingis seems like it's that 32 cap right now. We haven't heard anything. We also saw Satoransky enter the starting lineup last time out, and I like going back to Porzingis. I do think if he's going to shoot the ball at that type of usage on this team, it's his show. It's kind of why they brought him in there. No Kuzma there. Yeah, I do think he's fine to getting above the field on. He's shown the upside to be one of the highest scoring players on the slate. And I think you can definitely ride with him on that. So I think Porzingis is fine to get above the field on. Keep in mind, there is some pending news that could affect it, and you might get better value to spend at a power forward center position if you get the likes of LeBron, McCollum, and Valanciunas to be out. Just keep in mind when you're allocating that. Obviously, Porzingis priced up a little bit compared to what he was the other day, but I think rightfully so. And he's going to keep lighting it up the way he has been, like in games against Houston, Detroit. Yes, Golden State, a much difficult matchup, but I don't mind it. He has the upside. That's what we're targeting when we're playing tournaments, and I think he's fine to go to. No issues.
Yeah, 33 on Yahoo. It's not terrible by any means there. Mentioned a couple of spend down options. KCP at 16. You actually have a couple there, right? As far as guys that are kind of hovering in that mid-teens that are catching some pretty significant ownership on Yahoo as well as the other two.
Yeah, and last game we saw Hachimura get hurt and come back, so the rotations were a little bit wonky, and it helped guys like Denny Avdia pay off. I like going to KCP. I think he could be a guy who can shoot the ball 15 times and kind of get hot from the outside. Don't mind it there. Keep an eye on the starting lineup here. We saw Raul Neto completely out of the rotation. It picked up a coach's decision at DNP. Will that happen again? It's tough to say. Keep an eye on the starting lineup. It's kind of nice this game's in the first game, so you will have an idea. If Satoransky starts, I don't mind going to him again. He's sub 4K, $3,500. No issues going to Satoransky. $11 Rui Hachimura looks nice on Yahoo. That's fine to fall on as well.
All right. Move on. Look, this is a low total as well here, so we should reference that. The last game of the night is just a little bit lower, but we're talking about the 4 games in between that are 225.5 and over. So granted, you're targeting 1 or 2 guys in each one of these teams. That's fine, but the game itself is not expected to really blow off any doors. So we can move on to Philadelphia here and look at the Sixers on the road. This dropped a little bit now, down to 4 in Phoenix. I did see Tank the Shy Guy asking about Embiid over 3.5 assists at plus money. I think the plus money drew him in because that's a pretty sharp line, so I'm going to stay away from that. You know I've got something cooking here for the Sixers in a minute, but let's just look at where again, this is a difficult matchup. I'm a little surprised that the total is north of 221, 222, but it's at 225.5, so you can take advantage of this here, even on the road where Embiid has been pretty solid. We saw that Harden game. Anything outside of, when you're looking at this Sixers game, anything that you're looking at maybe countering with the field? I saw on Yahoo, Tobias Harris at $19 is catching the most rostership.
Yeah, so this is going to be an excellent real-life basketball game, 1 versus 1, right? So
yep. This is
this is a potential finals preview. I mean, it could definitely happen come June. You're going to have a ton of interest in these studs here. That being Embiid and Harden can definitely carry the load for the Philly side of things. I don't have, it's tough for me to have any interest in anyone else besides Embiid and Harden in a DFS perspective. Both of these guys look great options. They can be the highest scoring player on the slate. We've seen these guys do it during their time together. But if you were to fall on both, I'm not actively going to, if I get some lineups with both of them, so be it. I don't think the projections will let that happen that much, but I like going to Embiid and Harden. I know it's a tough Suns matchup, but whenever they have the ceilings these guys carry are so massive to help you win tournaments, that's great. Everyone else is just like I don't have much interest in Maxey or Tobias Harris on DK. I'm sick and tired of their performances. Maybe a Tobias Harris on FanDuel at 6K, but I can't go there in any sort of confidence. The only place I'm willing to roster Tobias Harris, it's a $19 on Yahoo.
Yes, that's
the place that makes the most sense. And I have no issues if you play Tobias Harris at the power forward spot there on Yahoo. Even if you want to get above the field a little bit there, that's completely fine. But keep in mind, he is just a floor spacer now. That's all he is. There's nothing else that's happening for him. He's not going to facilitate. He's not active with the defensive end. We'll see. And there'll be a game where Tobias Harris just gets hot from the outside because he has that capability. I don't know if Doc Rivers wants to implement him or anything, but the Clippers, when Tobias Harris got traded to the Clippers, Doc Rivers really unlocked him to become a much better scorer. There has to be something they have to do with this guy because he is a talented NBA scorer. There's no denying that, but it's so hard for him to be in that flow like he was then. But it's just disappointing to see because I do think he's a solid NBA scorer.
Spoken like a true Sixers fan that I know you're not, but you echo. I'm laughing because I've heard that, and it's just so evident to everybody watching this guy, like the frustrations there, and it spills over into the DFS world. It spills over into the betting world. Like that's one that does kind of is consistent. It's not some narrative that just gets downplayed by any means. All right, real quick, let's hit Daily Sam here on the super chat. Again, definitely not necessary, but always appreciated. We'll put you right to the front of the line when we see that, and then you get to see that cool graphic on the left side of your screen with Daily Sam and that super chat dollar that Jordan put up. So he's asking, is 40% Jay Crowder too much tonight on DK?
I personally think so, yeah. I think it's a little too much to go on. I know we'll touch on this Phoenix side of things with Chris Paul back, and I think we can just hop on over. I mean, with Chris Paul back, Jay Crowder comes in at $4,800. Yeah, that's a little too much for my liking. If you want to play that much Crowder, I would rather play 40% Crowder on FanDuel than DraftKings, but I don't like playing Jay Crowder in that much at all. The guy's great to roster when it's a smaller slate. I just think there are better options than him. Sure, he has the upside to knock down threes where he gets a 3-point bonus, but 40%, that's a little too much for my liking. It depends on
that.
You're building 10 lineups and you have 4 Crowder lineups. That seems a little too much. Yeah, I'm okay if you get to like, what's the ownership coming up? Projected ownership on DK right now.
Tell you, I just have it right here.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to double the field and fall in 15, 16, that seems more reasonable. If you want to be above the field on, even I don't think there's no reason to 5 to 6x the field on Jay Crowder. So I would try to trim that down as of now.
So looking at that let's take Devin Booker and Chris Paul out. I guess I could just rephrase it and just say, hey, let's look at Bridges. Are you going to get to somebody like Bridges more than you would Crowder tonight?
Mikal Bridges, $5,700. No, with Chris Paul being back in the picture, I think these guys their price tags need to fall about 10 to 15% more for me to have a little bit more interest in them. Especially Mikal Bridges. I think DeAndre Ayton you can still go to. I think he's priced reasonably enough. He's going to try to be out there to body up Embiid. But if there's a son I'm going to roster on any site tonight, it's going to be Chris Paul, $6,600 on FanDuel. That is too damn cheap for Chris Paul. I think we were seeing before he got hurt, Chris Paul was putting up assist games in the teens, like the high teens sometimes. So he was playing excellent basketball, and he came back against the Nuggets, just fed Devin Booker to almost a 50-piece. So CP3 is the way to go on FanDuel. And I don't mind if you fall on him on DK either. He's just priced that well on FanDuel where he might be kind of a priority to get in there.
Is that changing what you're doing with Booker, or is it just everybody else around?
Yeah, for Booker, now I would rather roster Harden than Booker if you're just looking at like similar price tags in the making. I just think Harden's just the lead ball handling guy. He's kind of like a hybrid of Chris Paul and D Book in terms of like what his role is, right? For the Sixers, he can just do the scoring and the ball handling. While Devin Booker now with Chris Paul in the mix, he's going to have to just put up buckets, and he's going to have to put up a lot, as much less ball handling duty, but he can certainly get there. We saw it happen with Denver. I just don't think it happens on back-to-back nights.
So anybody else that's even worth long shot? Oh, Eytan, right? I don't think you brought him as far as 6,700 on DK. Looking at other options, we did talk about Embiid as far as a pay up, but he's not catching a ton of ownership by any means, about 11.5% there in this game. So you could gain leverage just in this game by pivoting to DeAndre Ayton. If Rinpack, you like that play.
Yeah, it's a salary play, and it's just an Embiid matchup where I do try to shy away on the other side of things, but a lot of things have to go right in terms of just like double, some blocks and steals, and less potential usage. His usage does have a better chemistry when it's Chris Paul's on the court. Chris Paul does try to make sure he gets actively going. It's a salary thing. I don't mind if you play him. It's something like with the field type of situation. FanDuel, where you only get one center, a little tough to go there in confidence if we're going to wait on Valanciunas news. So that's something that I'd be willing to wait on if we get a potential Willie Hernangomez to open up. So Ayton looks great in terms of point per dollar value. Looks like a great value play. I just don't think the ceiling's completely there, but he's fine to fall on in some sort of capacity. Maybe with the field seems the way to go. I mean, take a look at our, boom bust rates. I think as the news develops throughout the night, that should give us more indication on how much Ayton we should fall on.
All right. We'll keep it moving here and hit this game in Boston and tell you everything again, remind you what's going on with Yahoo. Hit that thumbs up button, please, if you haven't already, and make sure you're subscribed here. We do have baseball around the corner, so we should remind you what's going on with our Awesemo Plus MLB annual pass. Now, you could save 25% when you use promo code TROUT, T-R-O-U-T. That's Mike Trout. So just Trout. That's all you need at checkout. And you're going to get everything, top stacks, top pitchers, projections, everything you need from ownership and beyond for the entire MLB season through the playoffs. It drops to 15% on April 1st. That's 4 days away, right? So you might as well jump in now and get an extra 10%. Like we're telling you, it's going to dip by 10% in a couple of days. So if you want to get in, you should get in now if you haven't already. All right, so let's hit. Oh, real quick, by the way, let me just throw this out at you. Both Bridges have been on fire. And I've been targeting them way more often than not. And I've been getting a really good return, especially because Mikal kind of fluctuates a little bit here. And what I've done is just taken all three. I think you can play them individually if you like. Miles is going to be like minus 160, so I stayed away from that. But the play for me is Maxey over 1.5, 13 of 15 games since James Harden is here, including last game where he only scores single-digit points. Maxey goes over. Mikal Bridges over 1.5, Miles Bridges. So we're going Team Bridges and Maxey all over 1.5 for a plus 480 parlay.
Yeah, I actually don't mind it. All our projected stats love it. They have these guys projected over there, and kudos to you for getting that on early. Yeah, I hope that hits. I do think that's a pretty solid parlay, just because our data inclines with that. So I'm all for it. So yeah, Maxey's been knocking down threes with Harden there.
Amazing.
Spacing the floor really well since he's been there. Yeah, Bridges in that Brooklyn matchup, and then Bridges on the other side against Philly. Yeah, it could definitely work out.
Just wanted to throw it out there. I'm lucky if I get you giving me the thumbs up on like an individual play. I thought I'd be reaching with a 2-leg, let alone 3-leg. So, Hey, man, you made my night so far. All right, we're in good shape.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you look at what we have in the projected stats, all of those are projected higher than those lines that you said. So,
yeah, yep. All right, so let's look at Minnesota for 6.5 points. Dog on the road at Boston. Minnesota could use the win. Boston's been on the tear. So let's look at this from the Wolves standpoint. And it's been a little bit kind of up in the air, but at least from how we have this thing projected, and we should say, without burying the lead here, the field is generally on Boston. Like when you look at DK, and I just want to refresh this just to make sure that it's still as up to date as it was, the top 4 guys that we have as far as projected on DK are in Boston. 4 of the 5 guys are in Boston. So the one guy that's super owned here, who was coming through for a little bit until he missed time after that ejection, and I've cooled off on his 3-point prop, is Pat Bev, the 3-point god, 4,600 at DK. So 25% of the field is getting to Beverly, and he's the most owned outside of Noel by a little bit. Noel, sorry.
Yeah, so this Minnesota team, it's interesting to see where their ownerships are all coming in. We're getting Jalen Noel on a ton of ownership today, and that's very interesting to take a look at. I'm not sure how to feel about that. That's a lot of ownership falling his way. It's playing a ton of minutes. I know we're looking for some value right now. I'm just going to wait for the New Orleans situation and see what ends up happening there. I know it's 3,100. Not much has to go right, but man, it's something to fall on Jalen Noel on this slate. But Pat Bev, even I'd like to come in under on the field. It's a tough Boston team, man. Boston's the hottest team in the league. Everyone is now. Everyone lives in the moment. They're saying Boston's going to go to the finals. I mean, that's how the media's been riding them of late. So we'll see with this Boston team come playoff time, but. It's for Minnesota. For me, it's usually their big 3. I like falling on Cat Edwards and D'Angelo Russell. Anthony Edwards has cooled down to earth tremendously, and I think Anthony Edwards has that in his bag to put up 30 real life points at that price tag across the board. 6,900 FanDuel, DraftKings also $6,900. I like going to Anthony Edwards in significant fashion tonight, even on Yahoo as well. $27. Teammate Cat, $40. Yeah, it's Anthony Edwards, Cat, then D'Angelo Russell. I'm willing to look elsewhere with Pat Bev and Jalen Noel at this moment. But if there's no New Orleans value that opens up, we get that news, it's going to force my hand to play Jalen Noel on the slate over there on DraftKings. Now we'll see what adjustments can happen. I mean, it's no guarantee Noel is the better option on this team. It could be even Jordan McLaughlin off the bench, but we'll have to see what ends up happening with some news before I want to commit to Jalen Noel on that type of ownership.
Okay. Makes sense. Is there anything concrete? And again, you mentioned the matchup here. As difficult as Boston is alone, it's just so hard to ignore this total. Both, and I get it, because Minnesota will love to shoot, and you could have a Brown Tatum contingent that could put up 100 points alone on any given night. So I get that the threat of 230 north of that is there, but just looking at it from Minnesota, is there anything that you can lock in regardless of what happens elsewhere around the slate that you do feel comfortable with?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about chasing the upside with these guys, and Cat has that upside, right? I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, yeah, he's going to take on a much improved Robert Williams this year, but Karl Anthony Towns, you got to have interest with him. I mean, there was a game he dropped 60 real life, a week ago, and he's played well against Robert Williams in the past. So in this Boston front court, granted, remember Boston's without Al Horford, who does hold things down defensively. Al Horford's out with personal issues. Horford is still at this age, an average plus defender at times. So I think they'll miss that defensive presence. Grant Williams has filled in well for them defensively throughout the season, but I will. It's just taking the upside with Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. They're just could get there with usage. D'Angelo also has kind of adjusted his role here. So, and Pat Bev is one of those guys you got to rely on him getting there through steals and blocks, knocking down a handful of threes. So. I'm hesitant to go to Pat Bev, and there's a stretch there he was playing really well. I'm going to shy off of him a little bit.
All right, let's hit the other side here because again, we can't ignore just how heavily rostered the Boston Celtics are. DK, we have that even on Yahoo. When you look at that, it's staggered, but what, four of the top 5-6 guys here are all on Boston as well. Robert Williams is getting the most across the board, 40% on DK. You go to Yahoo, nearly 60% of the field is getting to him as their center. So Williams and then everybody else, how much do you find yourself to the field here with the Celtics? Jaylen Brown, another guy on Yahoo, 35%.
Yeah, you got to have interest in Robert Williams across the board. Great price tag, $6K, $6,800. And like you said, the Yahoo ownership is rightfully so. At that price tag at $24, I like going to Time Lord. Time Lord definitely makes a lot of sense. And the ownership makes the reason why he's going to be very popular. I don't mind going. I might prefer saving off of Brown to Tatum in this type of situation, saving $2,200 on FanDuel. And I believe at $1,700 on DraftKings. I think it's a great option to save over on with Jaylen Brown to Tatum, and Jaylen Brown has the upside in him to obviously outscore Tatum. I like Brown and Robert Williams, and then it's going to be Tatum and Smart. We do get Grant Williams starting in the lineup. Not a big usage guy, but has shown the ability to play much better in terms of fantasy perspective this year. I have no issues if you want to sprinkle him in over there on DK. $3,600 seems like a nice savings to jam in some other studs across the slate.
Anybody else that maybe there's somebody that's being heavily targeted that you're staying away from? And again, there's nothing as the full fade. I'm just saying you are underweight. And I'm just throwing a name like Marcus Smart. He's getting 26 to 28% rostership on Yahoo at $21. Maybe that's too much. Maybe the field is too much. Just anybody on Boston that you are seeing getting a lot of love that you're probably going to be fading or maybe even heavily fading.
Yeah, it probably will be Marcus Smart, just because he's $5,800 on DraftKings. I think he's fine to go to $6,200 just because of the way he picks up steals. I think that's, but just because of the scoring system for him, I just have the least interest in him. I do think his ceiling is the lowest out of Robert Williams, Brown, and Tatum, including him. He just falls not out of complete play, but I'm just not as interested in him as I am as in the other three. So, yeah, I think coming in under on Marcus Smart is probably the best way to handle Boston. And over there in DraftKings, yeah, it's Grant Williams coming in with some significant amount of ownership as well. So keep an eye on that if we get news to come in throughout the night about what other value could open up. Because right now, the two value guys sub 4K is Jalen Noel and Grant Williams, both in this game. So hopefully we don't have to force our hands and play those guys because there's a little bit of risk there. It's not the sure thing. And Jalen Noel was an excellent, excellent fantasy player when given the minutes off the second unit. That's how he's a great scorer. But if he's going to share the court constantly with the big three there, he's not going to get as much usage, I don't think.
All right. We'll keep it moving then. And again, from Boston, we'll hit the Lakers-Pelicans game. This one A lot of question marks going on here. Reminder, if you haven't hit that thumbs up button, please. We've got 1,000 people watching. We should be well over 156, please. Otherwise, we're going to just keep inundating you with Tyrese Maxey bets over and over again. No threats. I'm just joking. Let's look at this here from a bigger picture standpoint, really, with the Lakers. And also, too, with Yahoo, you can get that 1 free month. We told you about that from the jump, and more people are coming in. Click that link below. We talk about Yahoo here because there are so many angles. RenPack is constantly referencing Yahoo as an alternative, especially when you see price discrepancies that you can attack on Yahoo, that value on Yahoo. So if you're not playing on Yahoo or you're brand new to Yahoo, we keep telling you that you can win money on Yahoo. So sign up. You'll get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum with your first deposit and paid contest entry. And we're good shape there. All right. So how much are you doing right now? And again, 4:32 on the East Coast is going to be different when this news comes down in an hour or two, what have you. But as it is building and looking at what you have available to you, how excited even are you right now for this game with so much question up in the air?
It's tough to pinpoint, but I'll, I guess, do my best to, I guess, give my insight on this. It's really tough to go there just because this can change in so many different ways. This is a huge game for playoff implications, play-in game implications, to be clarified there. LeBron James looks outstanding in a few plays. I have a significant amount of interest in following LeBron James. There's this scoring title narrative that he wants to, I'm sure, prove to the world that he can still do it at a high level. 11-4, he is $54 on Yahoo. LeBron James has been playing games when they're down 20 plus to get that scoring average up. I don't know if many people have noticed that, but it's a thing. It's really takes a lot for LeBron James to get off the court nowadays. So I like going to LeBron James, even at this elevated price tag. I don't think he's coming in a little bit kind of appropriately owned, but I don't mind. Now, if he's out, it's going to be, we saw Russell Westbrook, Malik Monk, and Carmelo Anthony, and Wenyen Gabriel. I do not have any interest in going Wenyen Gabriel this time around. In this type of matchup, it can change because on the other side, if they don't start Valanciunas and they go to Hernan Gomez, will Dwight Howard start? Potentially. We're also dealing with a situation with Taylor Horton-Tucker, who might return. So there's a lot of like ins and outs with this rotation where to pinpoint what's going to happen. If all of these guys in, it's honestly just LeBron James. And then if you fall on maybe a Russ, but even then, I can't advocate going to Russ with LeBron James playing at these price tags. 8,300, 8,900. It's a little too expensive. Yahoo, $30. Okay, if you fall on Russ Westbrook. He's probably the best to play over there. But that's really about it. If LeBron's out, Malik Monk, you can fall on for sure. But you got to look at the news. And our team just updates these projections on the fly so quickly. They're ready to go with all different scenarios built out. I mean, I just got to trust that when we get the news to break.
No, it makes sense, man. It really does. And you're saying, especially with LeBron out, LeBron in, does anything drastically change with what you just laid? Like, you're probably not going to get to Malik Monk as much, right? I get that. But does anything drastically change? On the other side, I think it will with New Orleans and who's in, who's out. Looks like Ingram is trending to play, like we talked about earlier. But does anything drastically really shift if LeBron's in?
Could you say that again? Sorry.
For the Lakers, right? Because you were looking at it, you may get to Monk a little more, things along those lines, but I was just curious if there was anything that, if LeBron is in, we don't need to spend a ton on it. I'm just saying, if LeBron is in, there's clearly going to be interest with James, but how much does everything else around him change versus what you just laid out with him being out?
Yeah, it just helps LeBron James, and it obviously hurts everyone else. And their upsides definitely get limited by a certain extent. I mean, Russ Westbrook has been playing better in terms of fantasy wise. So if you want to sprinkle him in, sure. That's really about it. I know people might flock to Wenyen Gabriel. I'm not about it. If LeBron is in, he's been playing with energy, but Wenyen Gabriel is not just one of those guys who's going to light up the stat sheet at times. I know he's been putting up a decent fantasy numbers of late, but it's tough for me to see that happen yet again.
Yeah, man, it makes sense. We'll flip to New Orleans here in a second, RenPack, but we got to question the super chat. Teddy Wayman, again, definitely not necessary, but always appreciate that. We'll bump you up here with whatever you have going on, even if you wanted to give RenPack a shout out for smashing on Friday night or a go Villanova. We'll take whatever we can get here, right? So Teddy Wayman asking what our top 2 bets on PrizePicks would be tonight. And I went ahead and looked over at a couple of different things. And look, I was surprised that PrizePicks didn't move up one. So I'll give you 2 real quick that you can think about. And again, this is not DFS implicated. This is just simply over under. That's all you're dealing with here. I know we want to stay away from Tobias Harris from a DFS standpoint because the return is just simply not there. But I can get 15 points tonight from him. So I'll over 14.5 for Harris is 1. And then look, I just told you 13 of 15 games. Tyrese Maxey's got over 1.5 threes. He's sitting there at a nice juicy flat 2. So I would go over Harris 14.5 points and Maxey over 2 threes. And that would be my 2 little flex play things there, or power play, if you will, on PrizePicks.
Yeah, I have no issues doing targeting any of those. Yeah, we do have a free tool, and it's been pretty profitable for some of our colleagues at the site. So I dropped it in chat, but
nice.
I have no issues with those options as well. And check out the other ones with the expected win rate, prop line, and projection. So this is definitely something to keep an eye on throughout the night, and it's been pretty helpful. And I wish I had more time to play on PrizePicks. It seems to be pretty profitable when people are using the appropriate tools and our data. Just having that, just having access to this on a daily basis seems like a nice ticket to some extra money.
Absolutely. I know people were excited on the chat a little earlier, Rinpack, with the thought, I guess, that Eric Lindquist is off this week. He's on next in 23 minutes here, live before lock. But he is constantly tweeting these smash tickets that he's crushing on PrizePicks, and it's a safe assumption, since he's an employee here, that he's using metrics and data that's available to him like everybody else out there with Awesemo on PrizePicks. So, yeah, I mean, we've got, you mentioned guys in-house that are just dominating. I'm in PA, so I have to kind of, well, I'll tell you off the air how I maneuver around that. I'll leave it at that. But, yes, absolutely. All right, so let's look, the Pelicans here. Again, Carlos Gomez, shout out to the guy yesterday, won 400 under 12.5, Joe Val. That was, I don't know about you, right? But I'm sorry. Anybody who was on this show yesterday, anybody, I don't care if you were in the chat, you were silent, you didn't say anything, or if you're Rinpack, anybody and everybody in between, it was impossible to keep an eye on that game without watching Valanciunas' box score. Like, I was sweating it for him.
Oh, yeah. That was like, he came out there with the super chat. He just wanted the whole Awesemo chat army to be on his side, and it worked out. I'm really happy for Ron Nelson, one of a long time Awesemo viewer, tunes into a lot of our shows, supports us quite a bit. So very happy for Ryan Nelson to get that locked up and get that dub.
Now, do you think that would work if I put out the same type of plea where I have a Kevin Kisner plus 6,500 ticket where he's 3 down through 6, and I'd ask for a miracle sweat here? Do you think that would work?
It could.
The Awesemo community would rather see me burn.
No, it could. You never know. You never know.
All right. Well, I'll put the thought out at the very least. So let's look at this here. Actually, D. Owens 89 has interesting super chat, if you see that there, Rinpack, about saving money. We talked about Noel, right? Saving money in order to get Luka, KD, and LBJ in the same lineup on FanDuel. You like that strategy?
Ooh, that's one way to do stars and scrubs for sure. And there's you still, I think, have to jam in another scrub, even alongside those guys. I know it's great salary savings, but if you're just building one lineup and you want to have fun with it, okay, but I do think you're sacrificing some solid mid-tier value as well. And I want to say, yeah, it's a little bit too thin at this moment. Yeah, but you're going to have to just nail super ceiling performances for all 5 of those guys. Like Sato and Noel have to go for at least the combined 60. And then honestly, you want 180 out of Luka, LeBron, and KD. And then you're like in your head, okay, all these guys, if you look at your lineup and can the other guys get you 30 or 40 if you're building one lineup, then yeah, I think you can build it. But I mean, Sato and Noel both getting 30 apiece seems a little too thin.
Yeah. All right, back to the Pelicans here. Again, we're going to try and maneuver through this here. We still have the 2 games that we're going to get to as well, but it is a little difficult without having definitive information. So regardless, and I guess that's kind of speaking to where we have some sort of rostership projections, like Jackson Hayes, for example, is the number one projected owned guy, rostered guy on Yahoo that we have. Again, I'll update that just to be certain. But let's assume that everybody, Ingram, let's assume everybody's in. Let's assume all three are in. How would you start there? All right, all three are. It does look like Ingram is trending towards playing, right? That's the one piece of information that looked, and I know news gods all over here, but he was probable anyway earlier with the hamstring. So let's assume he, McCollum, and Valanciunas are all in until we're told otherwise.
They're all in, you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, this would be a really tough spot to go to really anyone, because Brandon Ingram is also back in the picture.
Right.
And the only guy who I'd still will have some interest in is probably a $7,800 CJ McCollum, just because he gets that ball handling duty. Like, he's kind of their lead guard, and more or less he's kind of their semi-harden for them. That's kind of his role for this team. Yeah, McCollum would be the only guy I'd have some interest in there. I'm not sure what Ingram's minutes are going to look like coming off a lengthy absence. McCollum at 7,800 is the only guy I'd have some interest in on this Pelicans team if all of these guys are in.
All right. It's an obvious smash, right? But is it going to be too obvious of a smash if McCollum and Valanciunas are out and Ingram's in? Do you feel like there's going to be too much of a public rush to Ingram for you?
I'm going to proceed with caution if all of those guys are out and Ingram is in. Now, if Willie Green comes out and says, I expect Brandon Ingram to play his regular minutes coming out from a hamstring injury, a soft tissue injury, more or less at times. So it's hamstring soreness. So I want to proceed with caution. I don't know what Ingram's minutes are going to look like coming off this lengthy absence. If you want to play Ingram, it's the $7,500 price tag on DK is where I would look to do so. And I would be willing to go to Hernan Gomez if he were to start, if there's no Valanciunas tonight. That's the guy who I'd be looking to actually get to on the slate, and he'd be one of the best value plays on the slate, if not one of the better plays overall on the slate, I think, if Hernan Gomez is going to start without no Valanciunas.
Yeah, he knocked out a bunch of threes last time. I was wondering if that would be too reactionary to jump on him again tonight, but I kind of kept it a little light, man. Not the best week, if you will. So I kept it a little light, especially last night. Jeez. All right. Nothing on the would you play anything with they're not up yet, but if he's in and you're attacking that, by the way, LeBron is up on the books, so take that for what it's worth. Would you have any interest if I could get you over 1.5 Hernan Gomez threes at -110? Would you jump in on that?
Hernan Gomez 1.5 threes? No.
Okay.
I mean, that's a little too steep.
Plus 110, would that change your mind?
Yeah, I'm just gonna stay away from Hernan Gomez 1.5. I think a lot of things have to go right for Hernan Gomez to pull that off.
That's a very astute point. One that I'm not going to argue. All right. So let's hit the Charlotte-Brooklyn game. And this is the one, right? The narrative of the night that we've been waiting for here. Let's get through the Charlotte Hornets at least first and kind of look around here. You've got a couple of different options. I saw some love for Rozier earlier. LaMelo Ball is definitely a guy to keep an eye on. 8,700 we see on DK. The only real issue that the Nets are going to have as far as maybe ability to take advantage of guys who are playing hurt would be Curry and Dragic. We'll get to them in a minute here. But as far as really Bridges, Rozier, and Ball, you kind of have that trio, and then anyone else you want to kind of work in there if you think there's some value for the Hornets.
Yeah, this is going to be a great game environment just to target. And Brooklyn's on a back end of a back-to-back. You know, I need some emotional back-to-back for this Brooklyn team as they get their all-NBA player and Kyrie Irving back. Yeah, I'm going to have a ton of interest in Rozier and Bridges, just targeting the cheaper studs on this team. Rozier on FanDuel, $6,400 looks outstanding. Yahoo price tag, 29 and 32 for Rozier and Bridges. LaMelo Ball is not out of play whatsoever. Can LaMelo Ball put up a not a triple-double, but a solid performance of 40-plus fantasy points, maybe fit mid-40s? Both $8,700 on Yahoo, on FanDuel and DraftKings. I have interest in LaMelo Ball. I don't mind getting above the field on him. like you said, we covered Charlotte last week. I kind of stay away from the front court and just stick to their big three. We've seen Kelly Oubre completely like knocked it out of the rotation. He's just not getting minutes for this team anymore. His price has fallen with it as well. Tough to go to him. Mason Plumlee, if you ball on him like as your last guy in, it's a center only spot. I can't do so in confidence. It's just I prefer Rozier Bridges ball in that order, kind of across the board, honestly, just because of the way pricing is.
Yep. Yep. And there's so much on the other end of it too. And we talked about this narrative. It's hard to forget that, as you mentioned, coming on the second leg of the back-to-back, Kyrie Irving was dog shit last night. And granted, they didn't need him, but you can anticipate the expectation of tonight's game. So human nature of kind of just getting through there, you launch a couple of shots, you're up by 20, there you go. But as far as this team now in Charlotte, yeah, I mean, outside of those three guys, I don't know if there is any reach or worth a stretch to get a guy like PJ Washington or anything along those lines. You mentioned Oubre. So if there's nothing to scrape and there's more of a focus on trying to take advantage of Brooklyn, by all means. I did mention Miles Bridges. Look, the guy's averaging 2.5 makes off 6 attempts this month. And the books have clearly caught wind of this where you're asked like minus 150, 166, that range. So I'm not going to play him individually, and I'll wait till you go through the nets and kind of throw something out that I was concocting earlier in the day, some wizardry that I was, or whatever you want to call it, belligerence. But let's start with Kyrie. And this is the big night, the home debut. So how much are you attacking him with other guys we talked about on the slate and also just cost effectiveness?
I'm all about this narrative with Kyrie Irving tonight. I know he's expensive, but give me the narrative. I know narratives probably don't work out on most nights that I chase them, but this is an awesome narrative to chase one. And if I'm going to have some fun playing DFS, it's going to be on the backs of Kyrie Irving today. I like going to Kyrie Irving more than Kevin Durant. Give me some Kyrie. I think he took it easy last night against Miami, as he only needed 11 points, but wouldn't shock me if he puts up 50 plus that today. I think Kyrie's ready for wants to put on a show in Barclays, but that's just me chasing a narrative, and I have no issues if you don't want to chase it with it. I just have think it's a pretty solid narrative at this point in the season to tail. So I like going to Kyrie. Keep in mind, LaMarcus Aldridge is set to return today. This definitely takes away from Andre Drummond's appeal, in my opinion. What happens with the rotation there? Does James Johnson and Nick Claxton lose minutes? I think that's what's going to happen. Maybe Aldridge just plays like a dozen minutes or so. I'm not sure what is going to happen. I need to maybe take a look at some Steve Nash coaching notes, but it's a good game environment. And give me some Kyrie Irving, and I'm pumped to see what he's going to do against the Charlotte team in this type of game environment. Keep in mind, he did already drop a 50 real life piece against Charlotte. I want to say 20 days ago or so. So dropping another 50 piece against Charlotte would not shock me again.
Yeah, I mean, Durant's getting some love too when you look at the ownership, projected ownership that we have. But I mean, a lot of this is so much with Kyrie, and that's expected by all means. So you find yourself overweight, I would imagine, pretty heavy to the field.
Yeah, I mean, it's just how it is for this Brooklyn team. Yeah, I'm rostering one guy. It's going to be Kyrie, but other value options here. I mean, it's
well, what about KD?
Appealing. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to ask about Kate before you got even deeper. What about KD? And I know it was kind of raised earlier as far as getting them in a larger lineup. I think Luka was the other third option in there. But if you're looking at DK, FanDuel, Yahoo, do you find yourself at least trying to get, because we've talked about this too, even last night we talked about this, about how they can both explode and be top 3, top 5 guys on any night. Is there any opportunity, especially because Kyrie is so low owned? I get that. But what about putting the two of them together? Or just going to KD instead of Kyrie? But I guess that wouldn't gain you as much leverage since Irving is basically at 4.5%.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Kevin Durant could be the one to drop 50 pieces as well, but we saw them get off. I mean, both go off together against Memphis the other day when they lost. But at that price tag, I'd rather spend it for LeBron James. I just think I'm just chasing that narrative. I think he's just going to feed the ball to Kyrie just to put on a show for the home fans. But that's how I'm approaching it. But if you fall on Kevin Durant, no issues. Yeah, he definitely has the upside within him to be the high scoring player in the slate. It's just these guys run the show for them. And I wouldn't fault you necessarily if you fall on them with the right value pieces, but it's just keep in mind they're negatively correlated at these price tags. You want them to both honestly put up 60 points a piece, maybe like 120 points combined to really carry your lineups. But for all that super ceiling upside, that's why I'm going to shy away from rostering both of them. I don't think it'll happen as much, but
Yep.
It's not going to take much to get above the field and like Kyrie Irving. So I think I'm going to be heading that way tonight.
So we'll hit this final game here. It's another lower total, similar to how we opened up. But as far as, again, building multiple lineups, you're in that 150 type range. Looking at a guy like Bruce Brown, $22 on Yahoo, he's getting about 10% projected rostership. So it's not one or the other, clearly, like we talked about with Kyrie and KD. But do you find yourself even having him on your radar at that point? 22 seems a little steep, but again, I reference it because of the rostership we're at least seeing, which is in double digits.
Yeah, I think that's completely fine to chase there, but it's something where I'm just going to wait on some news to see how that will end up formulating together. Funny, Ryan Nelson has appeared with the super chat first round preview tonight, Spider versus Luka. Luka Doncic has yet to play a playoff game without that's not been the Clippers.
Really?
He's played 13 playoff games and they've been all against the Clippers. Yeah.
Well, things are a little different against Spider, but we'll see. No, this is right. We got first round preview tonight. And again, Ryan Nelson, that's how you re-enter. Now, we love the super chat by all means, but you need to re-enter with one of those like Vince McMahon vids of him just chesting out into the ring there, right? This guy just crushed that sweat last night. He had people I saw in the chat back saying, I was sweating this for no reason.
That's awesome. That's when chat gets going for sure.
Oh, man. All right, let's look at the Jazz here. And we have that. You mentioned Spider, but just kind of looking at where we have it, Mike Conley on DK at least is catching the most here, 5,400. So not sure if you're looking at getting any higher than that 16% or so projected that we have on DK. Jordan Clarkson's another guy that is going to catch, especially under 6K. He's going to catch some digits there when it comes to rostership. So are you looking at maybe at the top with Donovan Mitchell and a Rudy Gobert approach, or is this going to be an opportunity to get some cheaper guys in here for you?
I do like Rudy Gobert on both sides, 7,400, 7,800 on FanDuel and DraftKings respectively, and a nice 33 over there on Yahoo. I like Rudy Gobert in this spot. He's been playing. I played really well the other night against Charlotte. I have no issues going right back to him yet again. Donovan Mitchell priced up at $9,100 seems expensive. We haven't seen that 9 price tag around him much in the regular season. Right? If you want to play Mitchell, it's going to be on FanDuel at 8,400. And Mike Conley priced pretty favorably on DK tonight, 5,400, 57 on FanDuel. I think he's solid to fall on, kind of like your last man in type of situation. But keep in mind on FanDuel, Chris Paul is only $900 more that we touched on. So kind of maybe with the field, maybe a little less with the Conley, but it's Gobert is probably my favorite Jazz player to go to, then Mitchell. And I can't really fall on any of the other like cheap guys. Maybe a Royce O'Neal just because of the minutes he plays, but we might even see Greg Monroe enter the rotation. Nah, he's not going to enter the rotation. He did sign a 10-day with this Jazz team. I believe Hassan Whiteside is he questionable still? Okay. Hassan Whiteside is still questionable. There have been times where Gobert might play an extra couple minutes in his rotational runs when Whiteside is out. So just keep an eye on that situation. It might boost up Gobert a little bit.
Yeah, that would be the thing too. Is Royce O'Neal, by the way, has killed me from a betting standpoint, but I keep going back to him because of the minutes. I mean, he's north of 30 minutes. That's a lock, 4 straight games, but there can be some significant volatility, to say the least, if he's not hitting shots. All right, so last side on this game, I'll leave you with that Miles Bridges Kyrie 2-legger that I put together here, Impact. But let's do this final game or final side, pardon me, on our final game. And again, hit that thumbs up button, please. If you haven't already mentioned that we have Eric and Terry coming up in about 5 minutes for Live Before Lock. So don't go anywhere. News that comes in we have it here. And toasted biscuits, Rinpack, and you rank your top studs on DK. So do you have three? What's like a good ranking? Because we don't want you to give out 10 or 15 names. Then that's asking a chef to give out that secret ingredient. But it's like drivers or diners, drive-ins, and dives where you only see like 70% of them sprinkling stuff in. You never see the full one. So I don't know. Can you give us three studs you like?
Yeah, it's I guess in no particular order. I'll go LeBron, Luka. The third one, it's a toss-up between. Yeah, I'll go with Joel Embiid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Not bad. There we go. Always appreciate the super chats here. You mentioned Luka, so let's start there. Luka, Dallas, 214.5. Not a ton of points on the board, but that doesn't mean Luka can't put up 60.
Oh yeah, it's Luka Doncic, and a guy who's just can light it up. Been his show of late, and he's taking on this Wizards team, and I have no issues playing Luka Doncic. I do think we're going to get him at a little bit lower ownership than on a normal Luka slate of late, just because of the other studs on this slate, and he's the most expensive one. So Doncic over there on FanDuel looks like a fine option to follow on. Doncic, $10,300 on FanDuel looks outstanding. I like Luka a lot over there. 11.6 on DK, you got to pay up for nice things over there. So I think Luka's fine to fall on. Keep in mind, I do think I like LeBron if LeBron's going to go. Maybe straight up when all things are put together. But Luka looks excellent. I have no issues if you want to play Luka Doncic tonight, and it makes a lot of sense to fall on him. But Dallas overall, outside of Luka, it's kind of gross. There is no one really else that I want to roster in any sort of exciting fashion. Maybe $4,600 Dorian Finney-Smith just because of the minutes he plays. Everyone else is kind of priced appropriately / too expensive. So it'd be Luka only on DK. Reggie Bullock, where you get the 3-point bonus, is okay, but that's honestly about it. It's a tough Dallas team to target just because of where their price tags are.
Yeah, I was going to look at Bullock on Yahoo. I don't think it's worth it. But, man, DFS at $16 on Yahoo just for the minutes, as you said, alone. And both of those guys are guys that I target during the week when I can for 3-point props. So I'm trying to keep up on, how much they're out there and the volume. And with Luka, I mean, he's just such an immediate guy who can suck everything away. But 16, that's cheaper than DK.
Yeah, he's not one of those guys that's exciting to roster, but it's just a value play at this point in the minutes are there. And you just want to get the right steals and blocks and 3-point game out of him just because that's kind of his role. He'll hang out on the wing as Luka drives and Luka kicks out, and not much. Dorian Finney-Smith is not the aggressive offensive player by any means, but that's it's tough to. It's a tough value slate right now. Not many cheap price guys. Seems like solid mid-tier options and some awesome narratives to chase, but it's a tough slate as of now with the lack of news because the value is pretty scarce. But we'll hopefully get some news fall our way.
Yeah, and any news that we get is going to cloud out whatever's going on in this chat here, where I think I just saw somebody respond to somebody saying that Russell Westbrook was better than Allen Iverson. I mean, what more why would you still respond to somebody who says something like that? That's them just waving a red flag. Ignore everything I say. Ignore everything I say.
Yeah.
How did this become a Russell Westbrook chat?
I don't know. I mean, these chat's getting into it. This chat's getting in a little fights there.
It's a fight.
I like it. I like them going back and forth on it. I mean, Allen Iverson was iconic in the early 2000s. And Russell Westbrook's also had very, very good years himself. I mean, obviously he's kind of his own breed. He just knows how to play one way. So, I mean, there are two different eras of basketball. I like appreciating both of them for their grades, but that's how I'll roll.
Hey man, you could put Allen in any era. You could put Russ in any era. All this stuff, I get it. Real quick, Julio G, do you use randomness for GPP multi-entries? If so, this is much better than anything Russell Westbrook. Do you use randomness for GPP multis? If so, is it a must, or how do you go about it? Thank you and appreciate the content.
Honestly, the randomness I do use at times. Probably most on slates that are shorter and mid-tier size, I try to limit the randomness and try to focus on the player pool as much. but it's honestly, it goes on the news that's placed on the table. Sometimes I remove randomness when there's heavy news that comes in and I just ride with the projections. Sometimes if there's a lack in news at times, I want a little bit of variation of my lineups. And it's something that it changes day to day and sometimes player to player, depending on the slate. So there's no one way to use it. Randomness just like obviously just changes the projection on the player and projection outcomes. But if you're building a vast amount of lineups, it does help to incorporate that. But sometimes you are getting off good plays just to get a little different.
Awesome. Always appreciate it, brother. 2 days this weekend with Rinpack. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Rinpack, at Shander Show for me. Thanks to Jordan. You can thank Jordan out there as well for producing this portion of the 2-hour content. And you don't even need to thank him. He will trade in you saying thank you for just hitting the thumbs up button and subscribing to this channel. So that's how much of a great teammate he is. It's Eric Lindquist and Terry McBride, coming up right now. We're out of here.
Max says that every Sunday during the show at some point, but he's always wrong.
I just found out. I'm so happy.
Hey, I'll check the schedule real quick.
What's
going on, everybody? Welcome to the NBA Live Before Lock show presented by Yahoo. I'm Eric Lindquist, excited to be talking this six-gamer. I'm also simultaneously going to be sweating St. Peter's at UNC because my Duke Blue Devils, they're through to the Final Four. Could be Duke UNC. I don't know how you script these things any better than that. Maybe a national championship if you were to have Coach K be at his final game. But Terry, nobody cares about college basketball here. We need to talk some NBA here. How you doing, my dude?
Doing pretty well. I'm on the St. Pete's bandwagon a little bit, what with them being, like a mile from here. And everybody around here, as I was saying in chat this morning, everybody in like the Hoboken bars and everything, there's more kids in those bars than there are at like the enrollment of St. Pete's. And none of them could find the school. If you told them, hey, go over to Jersey City and find the school, they couldn't do it. But everybody's on the bandwagon here. So I'm rooting for them. Should be at least a fun game. And then, if you get Duke UNC, that'll be a blast of a matchup. Yeah,
it would be awesome. Also, St. Peter's Duke. I mean, this St. Peter's. Yeah, this is incredible. This is a fun story to watch. We're going to be watching that.
They're actually good. Like the way they play, they're actually a good basketball team.
We'll find out today. They haven't faced a team that shot the ball competent, like whatsoever. And maybe they're the culprits for everything. That defense is definitely the priority for them. And they've got some kids who can definitely ball it up there. But we shall see. I'm excited to watch it, but also excited to talk this slate. We've got a lot of news in flux. We've got the entire Pelicans situation, McCollum, Valanciunas, Brandon Ingram returning. And then on the other side of that game, LeBron James questionable. I'm assuming because of the implications, there's like a very low chance that he's not showing up here, Terry. But any other news that you've got your eye on that's going to dictate what you do with your lineups before lock?
I was just casually making sure that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were both going to go, and they're both going to go. That was really the only other major, piece of news. If one of them scratched, it would have changed the already, somewhat dynamic Celtics situation. But yeah, now it's basically just around which of the Pellies are going to be out there. Whether Joe Val and CJ McCollum go. I think that's really the key piece of news that we're missing so far, and we know Ingram's going to be out there. So
yep. All righty. I'm trying to see. Chat seems to be in a very good mood today. I'm very excited. Jordan Klein, we're ready to rock here for 52 minutes, are we not? Let's get it going. Quack, quack, everybody. Excited to talk through this slate with my guy here, Terry McBride. Go follow him at DigitalB21. And actually, go follow my boy Jordan Klein. Jordan K. Klein, I believe. Or what Jordan H. Klein on the Twitters. Is that where he... Jordan D. Klein. Sorry. Decline my friendship.
Jordan, you can find, you're bound to get.
Accept my friendship, but decline what I just said. Okay, let's go to the guard position.
Oh, was that like a decline, Jordan Klein?
Oh, that was a decline joke.
Chat's not going to be in a good mood anymore if you're going that way. Yikes.
Guard position, very wonky to me, seeing Patrick Beverley, Jalen Noel, two guys from the Minnesota Timberwolves going up against a Boston defense, and they're extremely chalky. I get 4,600 for Patrick Beverley. I'm okay if you want to be playing that in some lineups. I'm going to probably get to a couple of them. Projected here 30 minutes at Awesemo, but this Noel thing just is confusing to no end for me. Then we also have Celtics on the top end. Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart. The other two guys, they're just clearly underpriced. I'm much more inclined to go their direction over on the DraftKings.com. We'll talk FanDuel. We'll talk Yahoo here as well. Of course, the sponsor of the Live Before Lock show. But what are you doing with those four pieces of chalk in the same game? It's just kind of a weird guard spot we have on the six gamer right now.
Yeah, a little bit. Just bear with me 1 second. I just figured out why my spreadsheet was giving me all sorts of weird information.
Oh, spreadsheet, number. It's gone.
Yeah, I know. I was just giving you shit for derailing the show too. It's
it's fine. Right, it's just the first thing I ask for analysis, you don't have it on hand. That's great.
Well, I was sitting here trying to figure out why the hell LeBron James was coming up as a guard, and it's because I have this thing set to manual updates, and I have to hit function F9, and I failed to do it. All right. Look, we've got Jaylen Brown kind of sitting at the top of the board. We know he's confirmed in now, coming up 29% optimal on DK at 7,900 with 5 position eligibility. You got to like that a lot. He's a really capable guy, 1.08 fantasy points per minute across the average situation for the season. We know that Tatum's like the one over there, but Jaylen Brown is a solid 1A to his 1. So I'm happy to get to him. He's owned like efficiently. It's not egregiously bad on FanDuel. He's negative 2.5 leverage with a ton of the field on him. You're not getting different, but you're not making a mistake by rostering him. On DK, you've got a little bit of room. He's a 2.4 positive leverage. So I like him a little better on DK. I think that was the way you teed that up. Jalen Noel, yeah, I'm kind of with you. 3,500 dead minimum on FanDuel. Like if you wanted to just plug and play a minimum price guy, 3,100 on DK, same kind of thing at 100 5,500 above the minimum. I get it to build in just a cheap guy when we've got a little bit of a dearth of super, super extreme values, but it's not a great looking play. 0.97 fantasy points per minute. We've got him projected for 22.7 minutes. He could get there and deliver a serviceable median score on that. I don't really see the ceiling there.
Number one host, Cringe Quest, in the building. What up, everybody? I was going to say, I think that was a compliment, but also a dig, but also a compliment, but also a dig. This is surely a compliment. $1.99. Ben Anthony just telling me, Eric, you look great. You look great, my friend. Won't be single for long, boss. No, I won't. I'm feeling fantastic. But we have
his personality, folks.
Well, it is what it is, really. It's a good thing. I got these baby blues. They help. Cheyenne DeWald, no Herb on FanDuel, ? Depends. We got a lot of news to sift through there. I have to just kind of wait to see how this Pelicans situation, because he could be legitimately a non-play, like legitimately 0%. He could be a smash play. It's really hard to know. And then how about D'Angelo Russell? So this is the other part of it over on FanDuel. D'Angelo Russell is one of my favorite plays over on FanDuel. This price tag has just fallen through the floor because he's been not great of late. But you know what happens when good players eventually start making shots? Well, they put up massive fantasy totals next to their score, their salary that just isn't explaining how good of a player they are. 5,700 for D'Angelo Russell. Give me all of that you got. I know I just talked about Boston for Noel and for one Patrick Beverley being difficult on DraftKings, but I can definitely get behind D'Angelo Russell there on FanDuel.com. How about you, Terry?
Yeah, I like the spot a lot for D'Lo at that price, 5,700. It's just wrong. He should be more like that 6,500 price against the lower cap that he is on DK. So on FanDuel, yeah, he's an absolute go-to spot. Quite a bargain price, both guard eligible spots, 25% optimal, near 30% boom score probability, over a 30-point median. I think he's even in play on DK, despite the higher price tag against the lower cap. He's got positional flex. He's efficiently owned, 13% popular, 13% optimal. I'm kind of looking at him and Edwards as similar pieces on DK, where they're only priced a little bit apart, $400 difference across point guard, shooting guard, small forward eligibility. So you can kind of mix and match those two through a series of lineups, a lot of different combinations. And then I think Edwards is also on the board, small forward shooting guard on FanDuel for 6,900, a lot more expensive over there relative to D'Lo's price, but a lot less owned, 10 percentage points less owned, 19.3% owned to an 18% optimal score. So relatively efficient ownership there again. I think he's a little bit sneaky over there. He's not, not really going to surprise anybody, but he cuts into the ownership. And when you're thinking in terms of guys who could give you that 55, 60 point fantasy scoring output, he's on that list, and he's one of the less popular guys on that list. So he's on the board for me as well, but I love the price on D'Lo on FanDuel.
Yeah, well, talking about not popular plays that should be popular, let me just tell you right now, DraftKings, if CJ McCollum ends up playing, even with Brandon Ingram, I want CJ McCollum in a lot of lineups, especially because, in the event that you get him in and no Jonas Valanciunas, there's lots of ways for this to upgrade for him. He's currently the most positively leveraged player to get to on DraftKings at 8,600. On FanDuel, he's got a phenomenal price, but he's probably going to be under-owned comparatively, because that news comes out a little bit later. You maybe don't have it here before lock. That game locks at 7 p.m. Eastern time with 3 games. We have half the slate locking when we get off this show in 46 minutes. So how do you feel about CJ McCollum in this Pelican situation if he does give it a go?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a smash spot for CJ. I expect the ownership will catch up, but at worst, he's going to go off at like efficient ownership. Once that catches up, people swapping into him if we get it after lock. If we happen to get it in the next 40 minutes, he'll probably trend over the ownership a little bit. I almost don't care. I think he's at a good enough price point, and just there's enough upside there that I want to get to it anyway. On FanDuel, he's 28% boom score probability. On DK, that's an 18.7. It sounds like it's a lot lower, but it's really still one of the relative to all the other guards on DK. It's still one of the higher boom score probability marks on the board. And even if the raw ownership catches up to his optimal rate around 12%, that's still going to be lower than a lot of these other players. Even if he goes up to the 20% range, he's still going to be lower on than like a Jaylen Brown, who he compares with pretty favorably in terms of his scoring, in terms of his upside and his price. And then he'll be a little bit more popular maybe than some of the supreme value plays, but I don't think it's going to be a situation where it's going to really hurt you. So I'm happy to get there for his raw scoring potential if he's going to be on the court tonight.
All righty. Let's talk about the expensive guys over here on DraftKings then. And I know the blue site's going to be where you kind of are going to translate some of these guys over to, but for the most part, Luka Doncic, 11.6. He's a guy that if you have the money to get there right now, I'm finding it tough to get up to him. Kyrie Irving, even though Kyrie Irving 10-5. I know Rimpak made the case from there at the onset. Anytime you can get somebody under 4%, I mean, it's not too hard to play 10, 15% of Kyrie Irving, be over the field and live with that. James Harden's there, 10K. Devin Booker against Philadelphia, 9,400 here, but now Chris Paul back, but still we've seen that upside. Who at the top end of guard are you getting to the most over on FanDuel?
At the top end of guard on FanDuel, I mean, you've got the Kyrie situation. He's coming up 7% optimal on the FanDuel slate, though. I know everybody wants to play him tonight with that narrative. Rimpak was talking about it on the last show. He is Kyrie Irving, 1.25 fantasy point per minute, star caliber kind of a player. But I don't know that he's given us the optimal rates that we need, or the boom score percentage we need. Sub 10% boom score probability, sub 10% optimal on FanDuel. I'm a lot more inclined to go to a Luka Doncic for 500 less over there. Same positional eligibility at both guard spots, 27% optimal, 30% boom score probability. So that's really my prime target. You could definitely talk me into some shares of Devin Booker at 10,000 on the FanDuel slate. But again, he's only coming up 10% optimal, 12% on the boom score probability. Harden ranks out similarly for even less. So it's kind of a tiered down structure from I want to go Doncic, and then I'm probably looking into Booker, Harden, and then Kyrie, and I'll, let people go to Kyrie. It doesn't look like the ownership projection is reflecting any of the enthusiasm that Rinpak was talking about the Kyrie play with. He's only 4.7% popular on the FanDuel slate, so you are getting a tiny bit of leverage. I just don't know that it makes sense to pay that for him based on what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, CJ McCollum, Jonas Valanciunas remain game time decisions. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. Absolutely nothing good for us. We need to just... Whenever that news comes in, you might have to make some decisions. I mean, we have enough. I could get some. I like getting into a little bit extra Kyrie simply because I can fall into some more lineup spots. Just having the opportunity to swap onto some CJ McCollum, some other places if I need to for the FanDuel site. I think that might be something that I incorporate into the process here in the next 43 minutes. But kind of rounding out guard, we talked about the expensive guys. I prefer Luka. I mean, I don't think that's really going to shock anybody if I can get up there. It's just really hard on DraftKings to make it work. He's 10-3. It's the dumbest thing ever. Why he's so cheap. Over on FanDuel, you just got to assume he's going to be 30-40% on every single slate. And that's what it is. Brandon Ingram remains probable. We'll have a minutes limit if he plays Sunday. That was assumed. That's why I like CJ McCollum, because if he was a full blast Brandon Ingram, that wouldn't be a whole lot of fun here. But on FanDuel, Terry Rozier is a guy, and I think you can play Terry Rozier over on DraftKings here as well in this mid-range. Another decent spot here. Great game environment. Charlotte, Brooklyn there, 239 total. I think getting to him, LaMelo Ball, some of those guards can be a nice little contrarian spot. Is there anything contrarian in this mid-range or anywhere on the board that you're getting to more than the field?
LaMelo was a target for me. He's coming up a little bit contrarian. He's 21% optimal on FanDuel. He's 13% optimal on DK. It looks like the DK ownership caught up a little bit, so he's efficiently owned on DK. But he's giving you about 5 leverage points on the FanDuel slate. So the field's behind the curve on FanDuel. He's playing in the game with the highest total on the boards. Pretty fast-paced, wide-open kind of a game for a 1.30 fantasy point star caliber player who honestly is underpriced for his potential, for his probable upside here. So I like getting to him a lot on FanDuel, and I think he's perfectly fine to go to and press over the field on DK as well. At 14% ownership, he's a little light in terms of just the raw ownership number. Even if it is coming in behind his optimal rate, you're still getting a 25.79 boom score probability out of him. So I really like the LaMelo spot. In spots where you can't afford LaMelo and you can take on a little bit of ownership weight, I have no issues with going to Rozier instead. I think he's perfectly acceptable there. And then another guy to call out, he's not at all a leverage play. He's actually pretty negatively leveraged, but he's super cheap on FanDuel. Chris Paul at 6,600, 25% optimal, 32% boom score probability. Very negatively leveraged. He's going to be very, very popular over there. At 7,200, he's a lot less popular. He's coming in at efficient ownership on DK. I think he's very playable on the DK slate at that price without a ton of weight. Are you getting any of Chris Paul over there, or are you just kind of going in other directions?
He's okay. It's just a deal where right now 33.7% we're looking at in terms of ownership for it. He's fine to land into some lineups, but I just get a weird feeling he's going to be even more popular. You see Chris Paul 6,600. I'm more inclined to play the chalky Terry Rozier than the chalkier Chris Paul. Sure, if you want to play both and then get very different elsewhere, that's something you can do. But Chris Paul, right from the get-go, I mean, this was a finger issue. It wasn't going to be lower body. Played 30 minutes. but even like 32 minutes, 34 minutes of him in this spot, it's not a great game environment here against Philadelphia. I mean, there's certain pieces that I want to get to, of course, because there's massive upside in James Harden, being able to play him at small forward on FanDuel. You have Joel Embiid. You have a number of those guys on the other side I like. Phoenix, it's just a lot of cannibalization, and I'd rather get to the ceiling of Booker and kind of live with a little bit less Chris Paul. You got to find some of these guys to hit eject on. I think he's okay, but 6,600, I don't want to get carried away. I have 18% right now, and maybe I get to a little bit more here before lock, but I feel pretty safe in saying that I want to be lower on some of those extra Minnesota guards, being Patrick Beverley, Jalen Noel on both sites, and then finding kind of these other guys that are a little bit lower on, like perhaps this is a guy I've got my eye on, Klay Thompson and Jordan Poole. Both of those guys really stand out for me as guys against Washington. Pretty low total in this one, 216.5, but they just have to do everything offensively. And I do have a cheapie to bring up that I'm just way over the field on. And I'm curious what you think about him in a second. But first off, Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, are you getting to them on the blue site?
Yeah, I really like the Klay Thompson spot there. He's getting a nice 6 leverage score, only is sub 10% ownership, mid-teens on the optimal lineup rate, mid-teens on the boom score probability. 7,500, probably maybe a little bit a hair underpriced for, what he's currently giving us. Playing full minutes now, we saw him put up 50.9 FanDuel points in 40 minutes the last time out, giving us 1.06 over the last 3 games, averaging 36 minutes a night. So it's there for Klay. He's back to, basically what we expect Klay Thompson to be. I like it at 7,500. The Jordan Poole play, he's just more efficiently owned. I'm fine getting there, but at 7,700, we're not really getting a value play. He's just kind of around where I guess he should be priced in this role. It feels even maybe a little expensive. I do like the optimal rates and the boom scores. It's all fine, but the ownership is efficient. The price is right. So I'm just treating him as more of a mix and match. I like the Klay play a little bit better. All
right. Well, we'll get to my cheapie in a second. I'll hold that one here because I have a feeling I'm going to get scolded for it, and I'm okay with it. We've got 2 super chats. Michael Pazzulli. Hey, fellas. Hi. Can you help us rank the top dogs on FanDuel? That is Tatum, Harden, Irving, LBJ, Luka, Durant, Embiid. Terry, the best way of saying this, your top 3 highest owned studs that you have on FanDuel.
Let me sort this by salary. That's probably the easiest way to do it. And then I'm just going to kind of target.
Great idea.
I'm going to target high boom score probabilities, and I'm going to target high optimal rates. So off the top of the board for me, that's Jason Tatum, that's Luka Doncic. And then I think you can get into a little bit of a debate. I mentioned that I really like LaMelo. He's another tier down at 8,700, but you could certainly consider him around that level of production. He's projected similarly to everybody not named like LeBron or Joel Embiid or Luka Doncic. So you can plug him in there, save a few bucks, and then go to like a more evenly constructed lineup. If you wanted to get to another star, it's probably Joel Embiid for me. He's just the most unique guy standing there at the center position, 32% boom score probability, 16.1% optimal. I have no issues going to LeBron. LeBron's getting a little bit of ownership despite the Q tag, and he's a little bit more expensive, and Embiid fills out a more unique position. So that's why it's probably Embiid, but LeBron's right there as well. But top 2 would be Doncic and Tatum for me.
All right. Well, I like taking some shots because I don't think the value is like clear cut here on this slate. And so I'm going to make a case for Gary Payton II that you should maybe get to a little bit more than the 4.5% we have him rostered at. That entire game was just wonky against Atlanta. You saw Kuminga just play 14.5 minutes, but now you've seen back-to-back games where Gary Payton II is a guy that they've been relying on 27 and 30 minutes now the last 2. I know Klay was absent 1, but looking at this team as it stands right now, they just don't have a lot of other pieces. Like, they have to make things happen off the bench. Damian Lee sure ain't it. He played 27 minutes there in that spot. He's just kind of a guy that's there. I mean, this is going to be a tighter rotation as it gets going here a little bit forward, and Gary Payton's just a part of it. I think that if you're not going to play some Kuminga, that there's an opportunity for Gary Payton II, and I'm going to play some Kuminga, but I just think I want to get over on both of them in this spot, hoping that I can find some upside here at a low price. He's sub 4K. Far less necessary, but I'm still going to get to a tiny bit on FanDuel. What do you think about this insane play that I just feel like people are overlooking?
I think it's there at 4,000 at 3,900. You're not really going to hurt yourself. I think he's got enough run to at least give you a fair median score for that money. I question the extent of the upside, right? I think we're going to get probably around that production. He's a 0.99 fantasy point per minute player over the last 3.85. Like you mentioned, give us 28.2 FanDuel points in 30 minutes the last time out. Just looking at that game, he did play the entire fourth quarter in a game that they eventually lost by 11, but he was part of the rotation. I mean, he got one of the first substitute runs coming in and solid first quarter rotation. So he's part of the plan. I just don't know that he pushes out to like that 30-minute upside. That would be my one concern. You don't necessarily need him to go there. A few extra buckets in 22, 24 minutes for his price is fine. It's just to really press that ceiling that you might want out of that price. He might need a few additional minutes that I'm not sure are necessarily there for him. That would be the only concern. But I think the value is right, and I think the dart throw nature of it in a tournament is definitely on point and is positively leveraged. So yeah.
Yeah, he's 4.2% positive leverage. We've got 9.1% optimal percentage. Again, this isn't a play that you're just going to be jamming. I just look at the value up top, and I think it's pretty volatile. Why not embrace some variance in large field tournaments and find some lower owned guys that I think are very, very equivalent to or better than a Jalen Noel shot? And that's coming from a Timberwolves fan. So I'm just throwing it out there. I expect that Noel number. I mean, if that's truly going to hold at 19.6%, just best of luck field. Congratulations if he gets there, but such is life.
Looking to further that point though, looking at the DK slate, if we sort all players, not just guards, by price, and we look at everybody who's 4,000 or less, we get Kuminga at 11.4% optimal rate and a 16% boom score probability. You get Grant Williams is the highest guy at 25% boom score probability, 20% optimal. Nobody else is really, I mean, everybody else is right in line with the 9.1% and 13% that we get on optimal rate and boom score for Gary Payton. Nobody else sets themselves apart. So at worst, you're making an equivalent play to anyone else that you can pick from that price tier, not named Grant Williams, basically.
Yep. These are different days than the days when you get to just play an OB top and free square or things like of that nature. You got to be willing to embrace a little bit more variance. And that kind of just brings it. Let's put it all together here. Guard, anything else that you feel like we should be discussing here before we move to forward?
Not really. I mean, Mike Conley's super cheap, but what's he done for us lately? Really just delivering around a fantasy point per minute. Yeah. So if you want to book a cheap 27 to 32 fantasy points, you can plug Mike Conley in, but I don't think there's much ceiling on it. Outside of that, I think we covered most of the relevant guys.
Yep. I think we did as well. Which leads me to this.
Getting any Clarkson?
Clarkson, not really. I mean, FanDuel, wasn't that kind of the number? Again, I keep going between both sites here. Yeah. It's not going to be something that I'm prioritizing in any kind of way, shape, or form. I have 2% right now. He's 11.8. Maybe it comes up a little bit more here as I finish everything up. Again, I was just kind of hoping maybe we got some New Orleans clues, but we have 0. That'll be fun. Herbert Jones. It could be. I keep going back to Herb Jones. Who? Herb Jones. Get excited for that. Jordan Klein. I just needed the look. Back then, people didn't want him. Now he's hot. People all on him. That's the respectful way of saying that. Smash the like button, everybody. As you're talking about Eric Snow and confusing me, thinking that I'm being discussed in chat. I'm definitely not being discussed in chat. But what is Russell Westbrook? He's still good. Let's just.
Are they still talking about whether Russell Westbrook is better
absolutely. He was good once upon a time. He is no longer that guy, but he's still a good fantasy asset, absent every other human being.
One of Magic's best attributes was making his teammates better. You know, it's something that Russ Westbrook has never really done very well. Make his teammates better.
If you haven't checked out our premium betting picks subscription, now is the time. Click the link right below our betting picks Discord. We want to see those. Let me see those picks. That was what you used once upon a time. But now all you have to do is sign up using the link below. Go do that. I don't even have anything else to add. We just have bets that are posted all throughout the day. Look at this. Curated bets from experts, downloadable ROI tracker, exclusive promos. I mean, if you are into sports betting, which you should be, you're listening to this channel. We love making you guys money. And these guys, we're talking Alex Baker, Steve Buzzard. We've got my buddy, Ben Raza, everybody behind the scenes here at Awesemo. They are going to put in the work to make you profitable. I promise that. They will definitely get things going in the right direction for you here. So check out those bets in the premium betting Discord. All right, guys, let's keep it going. Friday. Forward is where we're going here. Terry.
Yes, sir.
We've got a lot of question marks here at the top end in terms of like LeBron James questionable. I'm 99.9% certain he plays. And now that I said that, he's absolutely sitting. But looking at the board, it's just all Boston. Grant Williams, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Absurd that Grant Williams is somehow the most popular guy. He's been in some winning lineups of late. You know what he's also done? Played 12 minutes against Utah, done some ridiculous stuff in that regard. He got a spot start, played 38 minutes. That was absurd. I don't know what's going to happen here. Absent Al Horford, I know he's going to be getting the start, but I mean, do we need to rely on him in 30% of our lineups on DraftKings?
Yeah, that's a tricky spot, right? Because he's coming up negative 8.9 leverage. Let's see, roughly a 10 leverage score, negative 10 leverage score. I get it. 3,600. He's got multiple forward eligibility projected for just 22 in the median, but there's a nice healthy boom score probability there. I actually wrote about Robert Williams on the site. He's center only on the DK slate, 29% optimal. He's also going a little negatively leveraged, but I think if I'm picking a play from the Celtics front court, I think I'd prefer to go to Robert Williams at the center spot, maybe forego the heavy ownership on the value play and see if I can make it up in other spots. The only exception is, remember what we were just saying about everybody priced below 4,100 on the DK slate. You just don't have options down there. So by virtue of the fact that he pays for everything else that you want to get to, Grant Williams is kind of a must. If I was making this decision where I had at least one other similarly priced value pivot, I'd be looking to try and get away from some of that ownership. I do think he's a good building block, but he doesn't have an extreme upside nature to him that I'm seeing, right? 0.68 fantasy points per minute for the season, 0.97 over the course of the last 3 games. When he gets these increased roles, he definitely can produce. I just get a little bit concerned with how far he's trailing behind that ownership. And the fact that, when we see these extreme value plays in the 3,600s, typically those boom scores do creep up beyond the 30% range into like the 40s. They get a little darker shade of green in my conditional formatting here. 25% is good, but it's not great at 3,600. So I think he's on play. I think he's a firm building block. I do think you need him for construction for everything else we're trying to do, but I don't love the nature of just him in isolation as that play, if that makes sense.
This is why I like working with you, because you agree with the points I want to make. Grant Williams, I don't think you want to play him at 30% of lineups. Negatively leveraged. This is not a situation where you have a good fantasy point per minute guy being inserted into the lineup. Now, if he plays 38 minutes, well, F me. I'm probably talking you off of a good play in that kind of a regard. That's what he did against OKC. He ended up putting up a fantasy point per minute in that spot. Guess what? He's only a 0.69 fantasy point per minute player here on the season on DraftKings. There is no chance in God's green earth that I'm going to play 30% of this guy. I am right now capping him at 10. Whatever I end up, and I'm going to probably end up with less than that, I'm going to get to. But you just have to be willing. That's why I did not imagine I woke up this morning and said, I want to recommend Gary Payton II with people's hard-earned money. But there you are. The tools clearly show that he's a better play relative to ownership. So I'm going to kind of be finding other ways to go. Maybe a Jonathan Kuminga. We'll see kind of where that ownership lands as we get up here to lock. And we'll get talking to him here in a second. But let's talk about the studs here. We just got word LeBron James, good to go, available to play. That makes me want to get to a lot of him against the New Orleans Pelicans. Considering we have late news, I want to have more roster spots taken up to be able to get to some of these Pelicans and mix and match lineups appropriately in 150. So LeBron James at what is he on DraftKings? 18%. That's not nearly high enough for me. How about for you?
No, that's not high enough. Now that we know he's playing, fire away. It's LeBron James going up against the Pelicans. No reason to not go to it. 1.43 fantasy points per minute for this season. If I need to sell LeBron James to anybody, 31.5% usage, dominant player in all facets of the game, can absolutely rack up fantasy points. He's 20% optimal. I don't really care if the ownership pushes up to, even the 30% range. Give him a negative 10 leverage score and just let him be LeBron James. That said, 11-2, that's one of the guys that you need those Grant Williams type plays to pay for.
Use your words, Terry. Use your words.
I got there. So it depends on, how many of these guys you're going to be able to build into one lineup. It's probably one at that 11,000 price tag, and then a few mid-range guys. And then we're still dealing with some of these value plays. So it depends on the overall lineup construction, but yeah, he immediately becomes one of the go-to stud plays on the slate for sure.
Yeah, I agree. It just is a guy, and there's a lot of upside in the guys in his range. You have Kevin Durant. It's not going to surprise anybody, but Kevin Durant right now with Kyrie Irving and the possibility of a Seth Curry there, I mean, it's just simple deduction. More guys around him than around LeBron James. Just an observation that I have for you. Yes, even Russell Westbrook not going to affect him here. But looking at Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, we kind of talked a little bit. I mean, the Grant Williams situation, but Jason Tatum is just fine on FanDuel. He's going to get to a lot. 35% of lineups right now currently rostering him. I think that's about appropriate. I mean, he is a smash play at 9,400 over there. I mean, that's just a hard piece. Boston is just criminally priced on FanDuel. So on DraftKings, more of the discussion point where he's 9,600 amongst all the other studs. I'm still going to get to around the field there. Was he currently at 26.7? I'm going to be a little short of the field, actually, but still a fine play there at forward. The guy that I'm having a tough time figuring out what I want to do with, and I want to get your feedback, Kristaps Porzingis against Golden State with Draymond Green back. I don't really factor in much individual defense ever, but Draymond Green, this team definitely had the wheels come off a little bit defensively in the absence of Draymond Green for a month and a half. And now we get him back into the mix here. Not that Porzingis is somebody that's going to be shut down if he's knocking down, mid-range jumpers. The guy's 7'2", 7'3", for God's sakes. Like, he can just make shots over anybody, but Draymond Green's going to make his life harder. He's 8,500. He's currently 16.7%. Do you want more or less than that on DraftKings?
I think I'd temper my expectations around Zinger in this one. 8,500 power forward and center. You're not getting a ton out of him anyway. He's negatively leveraged. The optimal rate under 10%, the boom score probability under 20%. I don't really love it there. I don't really love it on FanDuel. He's under 20% in both categories. I like him, I guess, a little bit better on the FanDuel slate. You get positional flexibility out of him. He's coming up a little bit more optimal, but so is everybody else too. So you can kind of disregard that to a degree. So yeah, it's not a great slate. I would take some shares of them, but I would be below the field, I think, on both sides.
Okay. Just wanted to I wanted to throw him in there because he's a guy I've traditionally just been playing in a ton of lineups pretty much every single time. I find it tough to want to roster a lot of him when we have LeBron, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, guys that are in just better spots, but he's cheaper, 8,500. I'm not going to write him completely off, but this is the lowest I've been on Kristaps Porzingis in a spot. It feels like in forever. So at least wanted to touch on it.
And he's been cheaper recently too. I think his price has come up a little bit and he's just getting positionally squeezed. Just real quick before you transition, going back to the Tatum pick, I think you said he was 26% in our most recent update. In the update before that, he was 28% on DK. So Tatum's ownership is actually going down, and it's probably partly because LeBron is coming back and LeBron's is going up. So if Tatum's going down and LeBron is going up, I kind of want to start getting to some shares of Jason Tatum over there. I wouldn't necessarily disregard that, especially if he goes into positive leverage territory, which it sounds like he's heading toward.
Down in an earlier round. And Sugar, we're going down swinging. I'll be your number one with a bullet. Loaded God complex. Cock it and pull it. Terry, if you can name that band, I will literally never do a show at Awesemo again.
Limp Bizkit?
That is incorrect. I will stay here and employed. Hit the like button, everybody. We're going to go to other lower owned for what?
Thankfully.
Oh, thankfully. I was going to say. You knew the answer and you just
I was doing you a solid, buddy, keeping you here. Absolutely, that was what it was.
There it is.
Oh man, we forgot. This was our first real show together in a while. I was supposed to pay off that getting dizzy bet.
Now, honestly, we need
on a baseball show.
No. We need to double down on something, and it makes more sense for a baseball show to do the spinning bat on a baseball bat. Baseball. That was just word vomit. Let's keep going. There's a lot of these mid-range guys that we can kind of look towards at the forward position. Guys like Denny Avdia's up to 5K. That's interesting. Jared Vanderbilt, 4,300. Rui Hachimura, 4,400. This is going to be an important part to get right if you're not going to be playing Grant Williams like me or just, getting to very, very little of him. Is there anybody in this mid-range, 4K to 6K on DraftKings FanDuel, that you are getting to way more than the field on?
Vanderbilt's coming up some. I get to a lot of him.
I hate it, though. I hate it.
And he's negatively leveraged on the FanDuel slate too, which just makes it worse. The negative leverage on DK I can take. It's only a negative 1.5. On FanDuel, he's negative 6.7. He's nearly 25% owned. He's only 16% optimal. It starts to get painful, but I do think out of those choices, he's probably the guy that I trust the most in terms of like the fantasy points per minute, the rebounding rate, which is excellent. He's not a high usage guy. He's not really a scorer. Nice 61.2% true shooting percentage, but the 16% rebounds is kind of what I'm chasing there. You know that you can get some production out of him in his limited, 26, 28 minutes. 4,200 on FanDuel is the right price of the power forward. 4,300, I think, does put him in play as a alternative for Grant Williams. You're finding 700 more to pay for him in the power forward spot. But if you can do it, if it doesn't hurt your overall upside in terms of like abandoning a LeBron James or somebody like that to do it, then yeah, I think he is a strong pivot for the value play. Between the Washington guys, I don't love getting to any of these guys. I wrote up Rui on a slate the other day, 0.85 fantasy points per minute on 20.4% usage for the season. In a vacuum, I tend to prefer Rui, but Denny's been getting it done a little bit more efficiently lately, 1.01 or 1.02 fantasy points per minute over the last 3 and 30 minutes a game. I don't love either player though. And at 5,000 on DK, 5,700 on FanDuel, I don't really want to go to Denny Object at those prices. So it's just leading more toward the Chucky or Vanderbilt play, I think, for me between those guys.
Yeah, it's gross. Vanderbilt starts every game, by the way. Scoobs 7, 8, 6, 9. Yo, what's up? Yeah, but Jared Vanderbilt always starts. It's just he's 4,300. He's much lower owned than Grant Williams, and I think for 700 more. Again, I'm going to be mixing and matching a lot of these guys, and I sure don't want to play Tomas Satoransky. I saw that was something that somebody wanted earlier. I played like none the other day. Really didn't burn me. He showed up in some winning lineups at 22, but basically it was just insert player X into low-owned spot and make it work. I really don't want to be playing a $3,800 Tomas Satoransky here. We have a super chat here. That's what I believe this was just sent. Jordan Klein doing great work behind the scenes. Hit the like button for him and my spoken word music, but also just for him. Build a lineup around value or studs tonight from Christopher Hooks. Terry, would you prefer to build a lineup around value or studs tonight? For me, I just don't think the value is very good. So, I mean, play studs and mix up other things. They're the same thing.
You can't build around a value around studs without value. It's studs and value or like balanced mid-range. Like those are your two choices.
The value just sucks is what we're doing.
Yeah, I think it kind of pushes more toward a 1-star, several like, $7,000-$8,000 guys kind of a construction tonight based on the limited number of values. That could change if we get some crazy news in the next little bit and a few of these $3,000 guys change. But it just goes back to what we said about Grant Williams. Grant Williams is the only viable player with a majorly targetable, not the only viable player. That's the wrong way to put it. Grant Williams is the only major target at under 4,000 in terms of his optimal rate, his boom score probability. You've got a lot of mix and match type pieces who are coming up half as frequently optimal in the 10% range. It's just a matter of figuring out which one is right. None of them stand out.
Somebody said Daniel Tice is a lock. No, he is certainly not that, but that's great that you're on top of that. Appreciate you looking out here. Erica's too cute to go on the unemployment line again. Yeah. See, we don't want that. We don't want that, which is why I need you guys to check out Yahoo, the sponsor of the NBA Live Before Lock show.
Somebody pulls up next to the line in their car, you'll be taken care of. You won't have anything to worry about. Oh, did I say that out loud? I was thinking.
Yahoo is the best place to go play for your daily fantasy sports needs, because just like other people's needs, they can be fulfilled. Okay. You see, I'm trying to play off of, see, there you go. Yahoo Fantasy. There you go. Get one free month when you sign up and play, depositing $10 or more, playing in any paid contest, and you're all set to go. Simple as that. We have F1 stuff going crazy. Greg Ehrenberg, great hit by him today. Go to his Twitter at @GEhrenbergDFS. Go see what he was capable of doing, knowing about a sport for 15 minutes and making lineups, using the projections, top drivers tool that we have for NASCAR as well, top fighters tool for MMA from yesterday, for multiple days. So many Awesemo logos at the top of the top of contests, and you can be one of them by checking out all of the things we have here. Do it through this Yahoo promotion. Lowest rate that you're going to find. All the contests today filled up super quickly. They've had awesome contests during the week for NBA as well. Check them out. If there's one site that you give a chance to get your play at the place where there's just 11-12% rake rather than 16-17% on DraftKings and FanDuel. Promise it'll be a long-term solution in order to make more money. So thank you so much to them for their sponsorship, but mostly thanks for putting awesome contests together. Wanted to do that because we have 16 minutes just in case we were going to get short on time. Here we go. Teddy Wayman, $2. See, super chats come in and I want to give them attention too. No discrimination here, Squirrel. Thoughts on Donovan Mitchell tonight? ? Thanks, guys. You are so welcome. Thoughts on Donovan Mitchell, Terry McBride?
I hadn't really considered him all that much. He's just kind of ranking out as a mix and match type play. Negative leverage on the FanDuel slate. This field's outpacing his optimal rates a little bit. I do like the price. 8,400 feels right for, multi-guard eligible Donovan Mitchell, 1.22 fantasy points per minute player. It's just about the popularity in conjunction with his optimal rates on the FanDuel slate. On DK, he's sub 10% optimal. He's also sub 10% owned. He's not popular. He's fine as a tournament dart throw and mix and match play. If you wanted to press the ownership to the 15% range, even 20 on a player like that, even when he's not coming up that frequently optimal, even when the boom score is a little bit low, on a guy who could just come out and give you 60 fantasy points, I don't mind doing that. It's not by the numbers the right play, but it's also not necessarily a mistake. I don't think he's egregiously bad price at 91. So he's on the board, but he's not really a target in terms of what we're seeing in our probability metrics.
Okay. Well, I can't do it any better than that. $2 from Brandon Wagner with no question. Oh, he had a question up here. Hernan Gomez in play if Joe Val sits. Hell yeah, he'd be my highest owned player. I don't think it would be close if you have J Val sitting there. I would assume he would start. If they did something weird like Jackson Hayes, I would find my way onto some of that there. But yeah, Hernan Gomez, there we go. Congratulations, Eric. You can talk. It would become my highest owned player on this entire slate. How about you, Terry?
Yeah, I think Willie's the target. You see how I crossed that up? Instead, I went Willie when I could have gone with Guillermo.
Big Willie style.
Gomez. Yeah, I think Willie's definitely going to be the target here. Do we think that Joe Val's going to be out there though? Like, what's your gut on that?
My gut is like 65 he sits, 35 he doesn't. So I'm preloading. This is a good time to talk about this because I kind of jump ship on forward to jump to center simply because then you can kind of talk about what really matters to me on this slate. And that is late swapping on to Pelicans pending this news or swapping off of Pelicans pending this news. Now, you lose the opportunity to roster Boston. We still don't have that news. It's 14 minutes to go. If we get it in 14 minutes, we'll be able to actionably do something about it. But as it stands right now, I'm just taking the risk to preload a bunch of lineups with Hernan Gomez because I can tell you one thing. You don't want Grant Williams at $3,600 if you get Guillermo Hernan Gomez starting at $3,800. To say that they are different plays is like saying that cheddar is different than concrete. Like I would rather eat cheddar than concrete.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty apt analogy. That makes a lot of sense. It doesn't really make sense necessarily, but it's quite vivid and stark, and it really puts that into perspective. I think, honestly, Willie's kind of in play as like a similarly projected guy, even if we don't get that starting news. He comes up half as optimal, but he's at least on that list of potential pivots if you're not going with Grant Williams at 3,800. He's on that same list of some of the other guys that we were looking at in that price range at a 10% optimal, at a 15% boom score probability. Those are the same kind of numbers that I was throwing out there when we were talking about Peyton Jr. and some of these other guys. So I think he's on the board there, and he skyrockets in value if he gets into that starting lineup. We're talking about a 1.22 fantasy point per minute player on the average. Absolute dominant position at that price if he's in the starting lineup. And, at 17 minutes, he's projecting out as at least playable right now. So that should help put it in perspective. He gains 10 minutes on that or more. He's going to be absolutely a smash.
Yeah, he's going to be an absolute smash. We're talking double the fantasy point per minute rate of Grant Williams, almost 1.25 as opposed to 0.69. I mean, it's just day and night. It is cheddar and concrete. I don't know why that's what happened, but you know what? Whatever, hit the like button. I don't care. I'm trying the best that I can for everybody involved. Robert Williams is very important talking about this slate. 12 minutes to go here and 6K. I find it impossible to get away from playing lots of him on DraftKings as it currently stands. Now, here's what I'm planning to do. If there's no Hernan Gomez, if in the event that I can't play him as much as I would want to, and J-Val is in, I'm going to have to play some Austin Reeves. And I've accepted that about this slate. I'm not excited about it, but I'll play some Austin Reeves in that regard. But Robert Williams, regardless of what happens, I'm going to get to quite a bit at 6K. How about you?
Yeah, I wrote about Time Lord on the site today. I think he really stands out. I think, like we've said a couple times already, all these Celtics, just with you take Horford out of the mix there, and all of a sudden all these guys are springing to the top of the board. It's extremely optimal. You could easily make an argument for playing all three of Jaylen Brown, Robert Williams, and Jason Tatum on both sites. Do you want to maybe mix those things up? You're spending a little bit more money than you want to around three guys from the same team. I can get behind any of those arguments, but there's a good chance that at least 2 of those guys are going to be in the winning lineup tonight. So I definitely want a firm mix of all 3 of them. 42.85% boom score probability at 6K for Robert Williams. I don't care at that point about the 33.8% ownership. I just want him in the center spot. And it's the same story on FanDuel where you get him power forward and center eligible for 6,800. He's in the optimal lineup 35% of the time, pushing a 40% boom score probability. I just don't care that he's going to be owned by 38.5% of the field over there.
Yep, I don't care either. He's just a smash. And FanDuel specifically, where you get stocks points, that's fun. That's a good thing to have in your life. I just had a mistake happen in my spreadsheet now. See how that happens? Monkey see, monkey do. There it is. Going over to 10 minutes to go. I've got plenty of time. No panic here. I'm relaxed. I'm calm. That's the word I meant to say. Anybody else here at center that you're getting to a lot here in the mid-range before we talk about Embiid and all of the studs in relation to each other? We've got guys like Porzingis, I guess, power forward center. We've got Eytan. Gobert was a guy who was very, very popular the other night. And now you're looking at I don't know. Dallas plays at the slowest pace in the entire NBA, but do I think Rudy Gobert can go completely nuts against them? Sure. He just doesn't project out that well for me on this slate comparably as opposed to that Charlotte matchup. Anybody in this mid-range you're getting to over the field, Terry?
Now, honestly, across both sites, center a lot of the time for me breaks down into you're either going to the top or the bottom. You're going to the value guy or you're going to the stud guy. So for me, especially on DK, where you get LeBron also eligible at the center spot, there's just a ton of shares getting soaked up by LeBron, by where they're not going to Robert Williams. I think they're going to go to LeBron. I think they're going to go to Embiid. Guys like Eytan are definitely on the board, but he's coming up around 10% optimal. I like the boom score probability and the raw median projection for 6,700 on him. I think he's fine over there. On FanDuel, 6,800 and the singular center restriction, I think you're pressing it a little bit when he comes up at negative leverage. But where you can play 2 centers, you can play him alongside one of the studs or one of the value plays. I don't mind Eytan on DK. Porzingis, since you get the positional flexibility, I think, like we talked about before, is in play a little bit salary limited, a little bit matchup limited. I think Draymond's actually kind of interesting on the other side of that matchup. Yeah, 26-minute projection in the mid-range on both sites, 4,900 arguably a value play on FanDuel, 5,800 power forward and center on DK. I think he's on the board and he's not really getting owned like it. He'll go out there and do Draymond things against Kristaps Porzingis, and he could easily rack up more than 30 fantasy points here and deliver you a at least slate relevant without hurting you type performance. And I think there's upside there.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to win tournaments here, and Draymond Green, I don't know how you can't look at his FanDuel tag and just want to play a lot of it. He's at 23.9%. He's 4,900. It makes all the sense in the world over there. I'm almost double the field on it as I'm finishing everything up here on my end. I like that shout out. Power forward center, and there's going to be some overlap here, but let's talk Embiid. He's the major spend up. Karl Anthony Towns would be the quote unquote pivot, although there's a $1,700 difference between the two of them over on FanDuel. There is a $2,100 difference between the two over on DraftKings. He's only 13%, and this is a guy that has massive upside anytime he touches the floor. But against Phoenix, against a very competent defense, that a team that's now fully healthy and ready to rock, are you getting to any Joel Embiid?
Yeah, I do think he's still in play. And it's a situation where, sometimes to get these star players, you do have to hunt for the times where they're not necessarily at their incredibly favorable price. They're not necessarily in the greatest matchups. So that's why you get a situation where Joel Embiid is owned 12.6% on DK. He's 11-4 in a difficult spot. So the public bias starts to creep in. We are still talking about the second best fantasy point per minute producer in the entire league behind Nikola Jokic. I think there's plenty of reason to go to a Joel Embiid in what we expect to be his normal type of outing. Yeah, it's a tough spot, but he's a hell of a basketball player. So I do think there's good reason to go to him. I would be, kind of around the field. I'm not looking to really, smash through the ceiling. If I get a few additional shares, I'm good with that. So if he's 12% on DK, if I'm in the 20% range, I'm perfectly happy there. If he's 20% on FanDuel and I push that to the 30% range, singular center, or maybe 35, I'm pretty happy there. But I do think there are potentially other viable pay up spots on FanDuel. Like that's the spot where maybe I'm looking more toward a Robert Williams, get a mid-range or a value guy, maybe more on the FanDuel slate.
All right, tons of super chats. We're going to touch on these because I don't think there's a whole lot else to talk on at center other than William Fields, $2. Thoughts on Plumlee? Cheapest he's been on DK. I was getting to a little bit more of him. I was surprised. I ended up just taking him out of my pool because I just do not like this spot very much.
Yeah, when I was sorting this, he popped up here again. I was expecting him to kind of have gotten knocked off the board, but at 4,400, he's hanging strong at a 12% optimal rate. I mean, you're talking about he's at the same kind of optimal rate as Joel Embiid, if you want to make that comparison. 4,400, he's 7,000 less expensive than Embiid. He's also projected for less than half of the fantasy point output in the median. So it's just a difficult ask for him to do anything of relevance with all the other plays on the slate. There's a lot of stars. There's a few mid-range guys, and then there's some value targets at the center spot. So I don't think we need him. The price is fine. The probabilities are not great. He's even worse on FanDuel where you only get one crack at center. So DK only mix and match type value play. If you want to slide him in there in a few Grant Williams spots, I wouldn't say you're necessarily doing something tragic, but it's probably not the right play.
I got to say this right now, 5 minutes before lock. Are you choosing to preload lineups with Hernan Gomez? Yes or no?
I would be. I'm actually only playing one lineup, kind of taking the night off. I'm been in baseball mode like all weekend.
Oh, as you should be. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing what we have going here.
My main dynasty league, we've been doing the draft by email this year. Sucks because it's been COVID now email. But what are you going to do? But oh man, I've been so into fantasy baseball. Anyway, not to do.
Speaking of Trout active promo, 25% off Awesemo plus MLB annual. I know that's not something that's exactly. It's not even written here for me to say it, but it's promo code Trout gets you 25% off. Plus, I just want to see a man bulge on my screen. Right? Isn't that all I want to see? There it is. There's the man bulge. Hello, man bulge.
What sites are you going to while we can't see your screen over there?
That's what it is. No, but it's a man bulge. Our
ad is. It's
a man
back to back. Pretty interesting promos we've put together for sure.
We're working hard here at Awesemo.com to bring you content. We don't have time to go through everything and vet it out with everybody in terms of, oh, this might be a good idea or this might be a not so good idea. Well, man bulge, good idea apparently. So we're rolling with it. Guys, we had another question here. We've got Sam Lee on FanDuel. Jaylen Brown or Miles Bridges for you, Terry?
Jaylen Brown.
All right. Yeah, and now we're all caught up on.
I like Miles Bridges, but I like Miles Bridges on a lot of slates. But the way that Jaylen Brown was grading out today, I think is unavoidable there.
All right. Who is the play you're most confident in that one lineup? Because you don't have to read off your entire lineup here to us, but I want to get your take. Who is the player that you're the most confident in your lineup, and who is the player you're the least confident in that same lineup?
Well, I've got 3 Celtics in this thing. I love the looks of Jason Tatum today, like I said, but LeBron's also in there, and it's difficult to say I'm more confident in anybody than LeBron James going up against the Pellies here. I'm still looking for my value guards here, so we'll see where it lands. But right now, LeBron or Jason Tatum 1-1A.
Okay. I love the LeBron James. I mean, LeBron is going to be my highest owned stud. I don't really see a way around it. They need to win basketball games, and it's the best basketball player of the last 25 years of our lifetime that is somebody that just needs to go out and win games. I feel like he's going to do it here. He's shown to do it for almost 20 years now. He'll find a way in now.
Driven madman too. I mean, he wants it. He's not going to. I said this the other day about whether
will not go quietly into the night.
Exactly. That's just not him. He's not wired.
Today is our Independence Day.
Very nice.
I had to. That one I knew you would like. Jordan Klein has no clue what I'm talking about, does he?
He's gotta.
He probably doesn't. It's sad. All right, everybody. I'm dead. I don't have these guys. You don't have those guys. You're fine. You're gonna be fine. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and this is one of them. I don't know why you would do that. Don't do that. PETA, don't come after us.
Regardless of how many ways there are, I like cats. Don't skin cats.
Yeah. We're here to shear sheep. You can shear a sheep many times. Skin them only once. Thank you, Rounders, for teaching me everything I need to know about life.
Seriously. They should update those t-shirts for like people, between your age and my age, from like the everything I need to know in kindergarten, everything I need to know in life I learned from Rounders. Came out like right when I was in the end of high school, carried me through the poker boom into DFS career. I mean, look at me now.
I love it so much, though. That's you wouldn't have met me, Terry.
That's right.
You wouldn't have met me.
That's right. Yeah,
that's a win.
We've built.
Jose Alvarado, he's okay. He's 4,400. I only like him if CJ McCollum's out, which is a massive piece of news. But you have Brandon Ingram now back too, so it's a wonky situation. He's been playing way over his head. I don't really know what else to say.
Off the board at 5,600 on FanDuel.
Eric Lindquist is a Canadian dollar store version of Bill Pullman. Things.
I think you take that.
I'm also
think you
not
take that and run
Canadian,
with
so
that
I'm
one.
very confused. Is it just because I'm nice? Like
Probably, yeah.
Is that
the
what we're
niceness
getting
gets
at?
confused for Canadianism a lot of the time, I think, yeah.
Blame Canada. Blame Canada. That's South Park. Again, I'm just
You
on
are
a
from the
roll
part of the
today.
country that might as well be Canada anyway.
Have I played Sea of
Let's be
Thieves?
honest.
No, I have not, Jordan Klein. Do I need to play Sea of Thieves? What is it?
See if these nuts.
Oh my god.
Oh, I hope that went on producer cam. Jordan, that should have been on producer cam if it wasn't, and the show should have just dropped right from that. That should have been just out, hard out.
Thank you so much for everybody tuning in to the Live Before Lock show presented by Yahoo. Sign up using promo code Awesemo. Get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus. Get everything we offer behind the paywall completely free. Terry McBride, any final words for the people?
Jordan said it best. I can't top that.
Goodbye.